The theriline sparrow's song broke the dawn as the young boy's fox ears twitched. Moments later he sprung from his bed, the sheets flying, excitement on his face as he rushed through the room, his robe barely clinging onto his body. Running through the door of his room, the fine linens of his bed still falling. Yet as he stepped out, a hand caught him by the scruff of his neck. "Now, Master Hilder, where do you think you're going, dressed like that? To the dining room? For breakfast?" The head maid carried the boy into the room as she scolded him. "And how many times do I have to tell you not to leave the bed in such disarray?" She placed the boy in a chair as he squirmed. Two more maids came in. They carried clothes and an assortment of items to tame the wild boy's hair. "You must remember what today is, yet you still chose to run out like this." She pulled off what could only be generously called a toga. The younger maid, carrying the clothes along with the basket, within it held a supply of shampoos, makeups, and cologne, though its contents were hidden from the young lord. The older of the two maids carted in freshly heated water, held in an ornate basin, and brought it to the large and noble bath. Coming to the edge of the bath, she took out a siphon of grand size from under the basin and began to fill the bath. The boy's eyes grew wide at the water, squirming with all his might as the head maid carried him with one arm over the bath. He flailed ineffectively, crying out, "No, it will take all day to dry my hair. No, you can't make me." His long legs stretched out, his fox paws darting away from the tub. Hilder was quickly raised by the head maid with her right hand, and forcibly plunged into the heated bath as she spoke out to him. "Come now, child, is there no end to your whining when it comes to a bath?" He was submerged into the water, and the warm and soothing aroma flooded over his body. For a moment the scent of lavender flowed over him, threatening to calm him. But moments later he snapped back to the water flowing into his hair and onto his head, and he tried to escape his protests, quieted as the head maid reached out one hand while still holding the boy's nape. "Sponge," she called. With deft hands the maid silently went to work, the quiet only broken by the splashing of water and requests for the next cleaning tool. Layers of dirt, almost greater than could be found after a flood, were scraped off the boy's body. The head maid scolded Hilder. "You know, for all your squirming, you could have the same gentle baths like your sister or even your father. If only you cleaned yourself after coming back from playing, instead of letting the filth on you dry to mud." Looking about the room and seeing the bed-sheets spread across the floor, the head maid pinched her nose. "Heavens, we're going to have to burn your sheets again. Do you ever learn?" The elder maid swiftly placed the sheets that had been strewn across the floor into a drawer under the basin to be taken care of, while the younger maid had filled a beautiful pot with clean water still left in the basin and passed the shampoo to the head maid to scrub the boy's head. Though for the first time the boy did not resist, for while he disliked the other parts of the bath, the head maid's skilled hands massaged the shampoo into his head, any tension left in his body being released. Against Hilder's will, his body pushed up into the massage as he began to doze off. There was a deep silence as the two other maids worked on cleaning the room, while also arranging the clothes, readying them for the next step. After the water of the young maid's pot had been poured on the boy's head, and the soap had been washed away, the elder maid took out a towel from a drawer. and after a silent count to 3, the almost asleep boy was yanked from the warm water and wrapped in a towel that covered almost the entirety of his body, the sudden jerking motion waking the boy back up. His eyes reignited as his hand bolted out to stop the maids. Taking the towel for himself, the maids focused on the clothing. After drying off, the maids began their work with swift efficiency. The fine cloth folded over on top of itself, with belts and buckles that kept the overflowing cloth from falling about the boy's body. They were both loose, yet held taut by the bindings of the belts and buckles, and the boy went from looking like a ragged beggar to a noble, as the fine silken cloth was placed on him. Hilder spoke out. "Really? Do I have to wear such heavy clothing? Why can't I just wear the same old toga?" And the head maid sternly spoke. "On any other day you could wear as you like, but not today. Your mother has specially picked out the clothes you shall wear. They are based on what your father and grandfather wore for their celebrations. I know these clothes may be heavy, but I assure you that, with my skills, they will not hinder your movement." As more than 10 belts were placed on the boy, he felt more confined than he had in a very long time. The belts on his arms, shoulders, his legs, and the last belt being placed just above the knee. The clothes were elegant and poofy. As they finished placing the clothes on the boy, now more than just a mostly naked pup, looked like a ball of fur who found itself in some of the finest clothes. He tried to stroll out to the hallway, but once more he was handily lifted by the head maid and placed in the chair in front of the mirror, where he could see the bird's nest that was his hair. The youngest maid, pulling from one of the baskets, with a massive grin, asked, "Makeup?" With a snort from the elder maid and a cold gaze from the head maid. "No, if you wish, give that to your sisters, but the young lord will have his face bare. Bring the finest cologne that you have. The boy needs to be made into what could only be described as a smaller version of his father." The younger maid's face sank. She had wanted to make the young lord up like a porcelain doll, but alas! She dutifully pulled out the fine cologne, also chosen by the lady of the house. The moment that Hilder saw the bottle in the mirror, his nose furled. "No, you wouldn't. Not that stench that father wears, right?" The group smiled as they looked onto the boy. "Well, we will have to see what the noble lady has chosen, won't we?" As the younger maid came over, the head maid lifted a tuft of hair at the back of the prince's neck, and the younger maid splashed the cologne. It stung from all the little scratches that he had, but what shocked him was that, unlike the utterly powerful scent that would be put on his father, there was a light, smoky smell of the darken tree. Hilder tilted his head in confusion, as such smells were not to his mother's taste. "Not what you expected, is it, Hilder?" the younger maid teased, with a smirk whiter than the sun, the light freckles on her cheeks kissing the bottom of her eyes. The head maid spoke. "It is tradition for boys to be wreathed in the darken tree during their coming-of-age trial." With one last cleaning step left, Hilder tried to escape again, but was caught and placed back into the chair by the head maid. After another 10 minutes of the head maid's deft work, she patted him on the back. Before she could speak, he darted through the halls of his grand home like a lightning bolt, turning corner after corner until finally he darted into the dining room. There his sister, father, and mother sat, the mother talking to the head chef about recipes from their homes, along with his father, who, while busy, had a smile on his face, hearing the pattering of not just his son's feet, but the excitement of his wife's voice. Bursting through the door and leaping over the table, arms outstretched towards his father, Hilder cried, "Daddy!" The loose ceremonial clothes billowed in the air, though the excellent work of the maids kept it from falling off the boy. Before Hilder collided with his father, who sat straight up, not even looking from the letters that had taken his attention, he hooked one arm under the boy's and deftly maneuvered him to stop him from crashing into anything. "What is it, my child? For you to have so much energy that even just a moment from the sparrow's cry I could hear your scampering." Hilder's father ruffled the boy's hair. Hilder's mother scolded his father. "Honey, you can't just ruin his nice hair. It's an important day." Hilder, with a massive smile on his face, chuckled and sat in between the two, with his legs not touching the ground from the chair that had been prepared between them. As the food was brought out, the great smells of the fresh game and highest quality herbs filled the room, tantalizing and taunting the noses of the beast people. The excellent cooking of Hilder's mother and the chef was on full display, full racks of beef and venison hunted by Hilder's father. It was a day like no other for the boy. He could only dream of ever having such a feast, yet here it was. Stews to cakes, and everything in between, spread over the whole table. Any meal that the boy could want was there on his special day. Hilder's sister sat across the table from him. "You know, I will almost miss your hyperactive antics for the months you'll be gone," she said, half genuinely and half sarcastically. The boy puffed out his chest. "Worry not, dear sister, as I shall meet the challenge face on, and with the grand skill that I possess, will conquer it by the time the clock strikes midnight tomorrow." His sister chuckled. "If you could pull off such a feat, dear brother, you would go down as one of the greatest warriors of the kingdom. Alas, I find your bets to be preposterous, given how much of a klutz you are," she said, while pretending to swoon in an overly dramatic fashion. Hilder, feeling like he had been challenged, stuck out his hand. "Then when I come home, you will have to give me your weekly treats. And if you fail, it will be your sweets that come to me." As they shook one another's hands, their mother laughed while saying, "Susan, don't egg on your brother to bets over such impossible feats." Hilder dropped his jaw as he turned his head towards his mother. "Mom, how could you say I'd be unable to perform such a feat?" His father lightly chopped his head. "Simple is not what I would call a feat that no other in the long history of the Foxmen has ever accomplished, now would I? Being bombastic is fine, but do not lessen the challenge at hand." The earnest eyes of their father looked at the two children. "But if Hilder takes between 1 to 2 months, then both of your sweets will be mine." At this, all the other family members' jaws dropped at the straight-laced father muscling into a bet between children. Susan placed her hand on top of her father's after regaining her bearing. "Then, should Hilder take longer, I will get all the sweets, including yours, father." And Hilder spurned into challenge. "And should I make it within the month, all of the sweets shall be mine." As Hilder's mom sat watching, she joined in, stating, "And I shall be the witness to the bet, to make sure that there is no funny business that goes on when the bet comes to an end." After everyone raised their hands, signifying the bet's beginning, she continued, "Now then, enough of that. Let us begin to eat the delicious food that the head chef and I have spent the early morning cooking for this celebration before it gets cold." With that, they began to devour the food, smiles on their faces. The first to go were the soups, as they had been made from cattle, the favorite of Hilder's father. The next was a quiche. Both were grand meals. As Hilder reached for the last leg of duck, his sister Susan knocked his hand. "This one is mine, Hilder." Hilder struck back, placing a knee up on the table as they began to fight over the scrumptious duck leg. though they were none the wiser, as their mother plucked the leg right out from under them. As they were about to tumble onto the floor, Hilder's father grabbed Hilder by the collar and placed him back in his seat. "Boy, your prey has already been snatched while the two of you were tumbling with one another," he said as their mother finished the leg. Both Hilder and Susan's jaws dropped as they saw this act of depravity. "Mother!" they yelled in unison. She raised one eyebrow as she retorted, "What? There was a fine leg of duck that lay untouched while my children squabbled. If you were so preoccupied with playing with one another, certainly you were not truly focused on the food at hand." Moments later, another wave of foods were brought. Out came breads with lamb, venison, and quail eggs, Hilder's favorite food. His eyes lit up as he saw the sunny side-up eggs brought to him. Though small, they were served as a scrumptious treat for the growing boy. His sister secured as much of the venison to her plate as she could, while her mother and father split 7 sections of the lamb. The noises of the breakfast were boisterous, while they may be considered nobles of the beastmen. It was an all-you-can-eat brawl, but not one of their faces were dour as their food was plucked right from under them. While they had a moment of exclamation, there was no end to the delicious food. The plates lay cleared, while it was a messy, wild battle to eat as much as they could. Their deft hands had left their clothes untainted by the juices of the meal, and as the meal came to a close, a servant came in carrying a letter with the seal of the Grand Elder on it. "My lord, the Grand Elder has need of your service." Hilder's father looked up at the servant before reaching for the letter. What could that brat of a man want with me now of all times? As he read through the letter, a grimace covered his face. He spoke once again to the servant. "Prepare the guest rooms that are in the great hall. We will be taking care of important emissaries during the ceremony." Hilder puffed out his cheeks. "What do you mean that there will be guests? I thought it was supposed to be a time that would only consist of you and me, Daddy." His father turned to him. "While I would wish for that to be the case, the Grand Elder seems to have other plans for me during that time. Though, boy, if, like you bragged, finished all of it in but a mere day, there will be no issue." The servant bowed as he left to take care of his instructions. The food being cleared from the table and their bellies full, Hilda's father placed the utensils down and spoke. "I think it is about time we leave, Hilda." The clattering of plates began as the maids came to take the cleared plates, even the singular slice of cake and little scraps of lamb. While Hilder tried to take the lamb, his full belly stopped him. With a face of excitement and worry, Hilder looked at his sister and mother. But before he could speak, his sister, for the first time, spoke softly to him. "Congratulations, little bro. I'll see you when you get back." Hilder's mother suggested, "Let me walk the two of you to the door." As the plates cleared, they rose from their chairs and began to walk out. Once at the dining room door, Susan spoke. "I will be leaving here. I have a meeting with Damien," she said with a smile and a light blush across her cheeks. Hilda replied, "See you soon, sis." The boy, who had been holding himself together quite well, noticeably drooped his ears. Yet in the very same moment his parents took his arms and walked beside him. With excitement in her voice, his mother said, "Hilder, it still feels like yesterday that we were blessed with you. I'm certain that you will become a great man. With all the friends you have in the village, no matter the troubles you find yourself in, you will find a way to pull through." He raised his ears a little. His father leaned down momentarily to lift him up with excitement in the air. "My little man, chin up. You were the one to make that rambunctious bet. Are you going to fail before you even get to the starting line?" Hilder looked at his father for a moment and shook his head before bouncing up. "No, I am going to do it, and I'm going to be the finest man this world has ever seen." Hilder's father pointed at himself. "Even finer than me?" Hilder replied, confidence filling his lungs. "Even you, father." They kept on walking down the hallway, his parents exchanging minor pep talk to Hilder. As they arrived at the entryway of the house, there stood a grand fountain, in which a delicate inlay of gold, showing the history of the family line, could be seen. Hilder's father's ears twitched, before a grimace came over his face, darkening as he and the rest heard the thundering of giant fox feet approaching. While he stood in front of his wife and child, they saw a set of shifted beasts, almost as tall as a man, sprinting towards them. The elegant clothes of a royal guardsman could be seen flowing from the fox in the front, and the others that followed him wore the insignia of the Forest Patrol Guard. Hilder's father's posture loosened ever so slightly when he recognized the men, but he still stood at ready, his hand partially formed to that of a fox, preparing to strike should something unexpected happen. But as soon as the troops grew close, they leapt into the air, still out of measure, their bodies contorted in inhuman ways as the flesh turned from hide of beast to that of men, and they called out, "My lord, there is urgent news to report at the border." Hilder's father's eyes were stern as he nodded for them to continue. He relaxed his posture. "There has been a sighting of several armed individuals trailing through the forest, my lord." Hilder's father's eyes narrowed as the man continued to speak. "Their appearance did not give us much in the ways of information to their nationality, though. As they were humans, we assume that they're either from the Empire of Man or the aristocracy of Machina." The commander spoke candidly. "The troops who reported them did not make it clear which, but I would assume they are from Machina due to where they were found." Hilder's father spoke slowly, with a sternness that covered a deep-seated anger. "You are to tell me, not only have we guests from the Empire of Man coming, but there are interlopers that we know not the origin of. I tell you that for the time being you will be given direct control over the 3rd Platoon of the Forest Patrol. I need to have detailed information of this unknown quantity by tomorrow morning." He took a pendant from his chest and handed it over to the captain. "If you find that they are from the Empire, you may speak with them as you see fit, though do not come to blows. If they are truly from Machina, though, only observe them and report back, as those freaks will attack with even the slightest bit of provocation." Taking the medallion, the royal guard bowed. "I shall have it done, my lord, and by tomorrow." As the soldiers turned to leave, Hilder's mother spoke out to them. "You will find my husband at the main guest house tomorrow for our son's coming-of-age ceremony." The royal guard turned back and bowed to Hilder. "Congratulations, little lord, and thank you, madam, for informing us." After the soldiers had left, Hilder's father turned one last time to his wife and kissed her before saying, "Well then, my love, I shall see you in a few months. Stay healthy and try to remember us." She replied, "With a body like yours, how could I forget you? Be quick so that I may lay in your arms once again." She held a heart-shaped pendant up, to which Hilder's father did the same. Before they set off, she hugged Hilder and kissed him on his forehead. "Be good for your father, you hear me? And come back a strapping young man." As she rubbed his ear one last time, he slapped his hand on his chest before saying, "You can count on me, Mommy. I'll get back as fast as possible." With that, Hilder and his father boarded the carriage and set off for the guest house. As they departed, pulled by clockwork horses, the town children stood just outside the gate and yelled, "Congratulations, Hilder! Catch you when you're a man!" Hey there! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. If you want to find me elsewhere, I'll leave my other socials in the description. I hope you have a blessed day. See you around.